Hey everybody, how's it going? Well, we're doing a little content for this week out here. A little bit of a late start, but anyways, some fun things to share. So, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, a friend of mine approached me and says, "Hey, I'm looking for a lantern." And I was like, "Oh, great. Well, yeah. What do you need? What are you looking for?" So he says, "Well, I'm looking for something that's new, that looks old, because I want to take it out camping and do Old West living history events with it." And I'm like, gotcha. Okay. Well, we all know that we've seen plenty of incorrect lanterns in Western films and television programs, like Streamlined Monarchs or Cold Blasts, for that matter. And historically speaking, Cold Blast lanterns didn't really show up until the very end of the Western era in the early 1900s, late 1890s, very late 1890s. Then we started seeing Cold Blast kind of come around. But anyways, he says, "What do you suggest? Is there anything new that you would suggest that it could be used that would be authentic to the 1880s?" I'm like, "Wow." Of course, there's hot blast lanterns. You can buy one from Dietz. A Monarch is still being made. You can, strip the paint off of it, antique it a little bit, replace the globe plate with a globe plate without the wire guards on it, which you can get from Kirkman, and also get a number 0 style hot blast globe. You can find antique ones for $10 to $15, and you can kind of wind it back that way. You can paint it black or just leave it bare tin, which would be authentic to the era, because most of those lanterns were bright tin. Anyhow, he says, "Well, okay, well, what's the cost of that?" So I'm like, "Well, you're looking at $40 for the lantern and then the other accessory parts. Yeah, you're kind of looking at $50, $60 total, to make a new lantern kind of look old. Also stripping the paint and the work that goes into that." So we talked about that, and I says, "Wait, let me check something out." So I found on eBay a number 0 Victor from the 1890s. And I says, "Now, I know this is not authentic. I know this is not 1880s, but the patent was taken out in the 80s, so it's not unsimilar to a slightly earlier lantern. This is a Dietz Victor. It has an early look. It really does have the design, in my opinion, that really does say Old West." So I showed it to him. He bought it. He got a good deal on it. He pretty much paid what he would have paid fixing up a new lantern to look old. And here it is. This is the Victor that he bought. And it is missing the lift lever. So it is incomplete. But I'm sourcing that part out, and I should have one without too much time. But it had some surface rust, so I went over it with WD-40 and the green Scotch pad, as I usually do, and it removed it pretty good. And there was some good metal underneath all that surface rust. The air tubes had some nice patina to them, and as you can see, it just has a nice subtle sheen to it. I gave it some mother's polish, and it really kind of brought it out. So this thing is good, and the bottom's actually not terrible either. And it probably holds oil just fine. So I'm looking for the lift lever, and he says he doesn't need the lift lever. I'm like, "Well, I'll get you one. Don't worry about it. We'll find one, and I'll get it attached for you." So it will help out the value of the lantern. I says, besides being a useful piece for your living history, it is 125 years old. And it is collectible, so at any point you will, if you're not into it anymore, if you want to sell it, you definitely can recuperate your investment, if not double it. So, there you go. I cleaned that up for him, and it came out really nice, and I don't want to let it go now. Justin, if you're watching this, I'm totally kidding. I have one that I love myself. You've seen it. So, that's one thing that we got done yesterday, and yeah, well, it's almost done. It's about 90% there. Anyways, so yeah, I told him, authenticity is important. Of course it is. I'm very into authenticity. But when we're talking about, some of these props or items that we want to enhance our living history impression, sometimes we have to bend a little, even though something was made after the period that we're representing. it is it is a lot more closer to representing it than some other things. So I know he's going to get a kick out of this. He's going to love it and burn it a lot, I'm sure. They're like potato chips, my friend. Fair warning. You will probably buy another one. Anyways, so you're probably wondering what happened to that mystery, elusive unicorn lantern I was going to share with you. Well, it finally came on Monday, and finally getting the chance to really share it with you guys. Now, before I show you the lantern, I'll tell you I'll give you a little hint. It is a square tube Dietz lantern, but there are collectors out there who, some of them didn't even know that it existed. They're not very familiar with this lantern. It wasn't part of the manufacturer line for Dietz for very long. It had a very brief run. I think it only spanned maybe 5 years, maybe a little more than that. But Dietz made what we call a bare bones lantern, a very basic lantern. And what they call it was the Regular. Now, you're looking at this thing and it says, well, what's so special about it? It looks just like a Dietz Victor, like from the early 1900s, late 1890s. Well, in general aesthetics, yes, it does look like a Victor. However, it's different. Well, first, it says Regular on it. Okay. But you see there's no lift mechanism, no guide wires, nothing of the sort. It has a fixed smoke bell. So you just lift the retaining globe and pull the whole thing out. See? And then there's a little loop here. See the little loop? Well, that keeps the globe from rotating around. Because if that wasn't there, it would just rotate and spin and get all kind of weird. Take the globe out. That's a nice replacement. It's not accurate, though. I do have one that I think I'll be putting in it. But there's a little hole right here that wire loop goes into, so it keeps it in place. Now, you're probably thinking, well, how do you light it if you can't lift the globe? How does that work? Well, there's a little trap door right here. And that slides to one side by this little tab. Now, I would demonstrate it, but it appears that it's kind of a little crusty, so I need to clean the rust off before it's operable. But it's all complete, and I'm not going to try it because it is rusted, and I need to dissolve that rust, and then it should be able to operate. So you just slide that little door open, and then you insert your match and light the wick. Now, the earlier versions of this lantern had no such trap door. They had just a little oval hole that you would insert the match through, which, to be honest and fair, that sounds really annoying, because when you have a lit match, putting it through any small opening can either extinguish the match or, it just wouldn't be very fun. But anyways, this lantern is designed to be very simplistic. It has no frills. It has no design features that are really complicated or, extraordinary. So that's one reason why it was called the Regular, because it was their very bare bones, basic lantern. Yeah. And they made it from, I believe, the mid 1890s through 1900, maybe a little later than that by a year. This one definitely is the later one. This one is probably right around 1900, maybe 1901 or 2. It does have the soldered in bottom, so that would definitely be right around 1900 to my understanding. But yeah, it's a cool piece, and it's very rare. As I said, some collectors were not even aware of it even existing. So there's only a few examples that are pictured on the Tubular Lantern group on Facebook. And that group, along with a few others like the Antique Lantern Collectors page that the Antique Lantern runs and operates, those are really kind of the primary groups where you can really learn about these things and learn about the different variations and designs and models that existed at that time. So I would say these are definitely very hard to come by. I'm very honored to have this thing. I'm very happy. They are ranked as a number 4 star on the rarity scale that Woody Kirkman has supplied on his website. So 5 being the rarest and number 1 being the most common. So this is a number 4, so that'll give you a little bit of an indication how obscure this lantern is. But yeah, they don't turn up often because they were oftentimes thrown away when they would get damaged because they were inexpensive. So sometimes the most common or inexpensive item can be very, well, hard to find and quite rare by the, 120 years down the road. But anyways, yeah, it's awesome. I'm very excited to have this. It is painted black. I will be removing the black paint and cleaning it up to my specs. So it'll be fun, and I will get it burning. I think it does burn right now. I think it does hold oil. They indicated in the listing that it did hold oil, but I don't think I'm going to fire it up yet. So we'll see. Going to do some repairs on it and get it going. All right, friends. Have a great night. Thanks again for tuning in. We're almost to 300. Is that something else? I know, I'm surprised. I'm really kind of impressed that this little channel has gained 300 subscribers almost. So we're almost there. Yeah, 300. That's kind of something, I mean, yeah, sure. There's content providers out there that have 1,000 plus up to 100,000, 200,000, 1 million subscribers, and they're very successful with their channels. And that's great for them. I'm not complaining by any means. But what we do here is definitely out of step with the rest of the world. So I'm happy to have all of you guys follow and subscribe to my content. I am honored and flattered. Thank you so much. Have a great night, and we'll see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.